From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with a winter storm briefing here, the first in the series. And this briefing is valid as of basically right now, 9 a.m. here on Wednesday, the 6th of January. And I wanted to take this opportunity here over the next few days to conduct some of these briefings here, just so we can, basically keep up to date with what our thoughts here at the National Weather Service are. And a couple of things just want to get out of the way first. We'll be doing two of these a day, one at 9 a.m. and one at 4 p.m. Basically today, Thursday, and Friday. And tomorrow, we normally would have an 11:30 weekly routine briefing, but we've canceled that in lieu of a webinar like we're doing right now at 9 a.m. So just tomorrow on Thursday, we'll have a 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. briefing. All right. And of course, these are being recorded and we'll upload these onto YouTube. So if you need to go back and listen to something again or share with somebody in your sphere of influence who couldn't be on here live, you can share the link with them and I'll be emailing out the slides here as well. All right. So just keep in mind, and certainly I shared this graphic here on the right. This is a graphic I'm going to use a lot this winter and probably in the future winters too, because it makes a lot of sense, right? There's a lot of uncertainties with winter weather. So these 5 points are really important to keep in mind. Okay. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because I want to get right to the main points of this winter situation, which is, first of all, some snow that we're expecting most likely along and north of the I-85 corridor. So I'll show that graphically here in just a minute. Up to 2 inches of heavy, wet, slushy snow is possible, but it most likely place for accumulations will be across the northwest Piedmont. So in the Raleigh coverage area, we're talking, Forsyth County, maybe northern Guilford County, maybe, perhaps even northwest Person County, and then points north and west from there. It's possible we could see some wet snow as far east as the I-95 corridor, but right now it looks like it's just going to be too warm for any accumulations or impacts from that. And when's this going to happen? Again, late Thursday night through Friday. Now, if we do end up with more snow than what we're expecting, I wanted to raise awareness about power outages because the nature of this snow is going to be very heavy and wet. So it's going to, really weigh down those tree branches. And we all know what happens when tree branches get weighed down. They snap, they land in power lines, and they cause power outages. So again, where's this most likely to happen? I would say, basically the northwest Piedmont and points west and north, particularly I-85. We always use 85 because 85 is a great dividing line that everybody knows where that's at. And that's our climatological winter zone. So, and then for hazardous travel, like I've already alluded to, if you're along or north of 85, and points north and west from there, that's where it's most likely to see travel impacted. And I'm not going to read every sentence here in word on this slide. I'll leave that for you when you get these. But basically, the point is there's still a lot of uncertainties. So that's the bottom line there on that paragraph at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to skip past this and I'll just go right to, before I show expected snow amounts, let me show you. And this basically does a nice job of showing the what, when, and the where. So unfortunately, there's no timestamps on these other than Zulu time. So I'll just kind of back up here and show you and explain what time frames these are. But basically what I'm showing you here is what, this is sort of like simulated radar. This is showing basically where the precipitation could fall and what type the precipitation may be. So green represents rain, and the blues and purples represent basically snow, okay, or a wintry mix. This time frame right here, this time frame right here is Thursday evening at 7 p.m. All right, so rain will be moving up towards western North Carolina. It'll already be snowing in Nashville, rain approaching Charlotte. As we get to 10 p.m. Thursday, you'll see that rain will make it all the way up to the Triad, as far back as Hickory and Charlotte, with snow back in the mountains of North Carolina. And you're probably wondering, well, you're showing rain here. Why is it going to rain here at the onset? That's because it's simply just going to be too warm. The atmosphere is going to be too warm. Remember, we always talk about with winter weather events in central North Carolina, the cold air has to be here first, or you have to generate the cold air somehow. And the process by generating the cold air in this event is evaporational cooling. Now, not to get into the weeds, but basically the air mass is going to be very dry. And when water or liquid moisture falls into dry air, it causes a cooling process. So what happens in these situations is that oftentimes it'll start out as rain, and then that rain will cool the atmosphere, and melting snowflakes will cool the atmosphere, and eventually it cools it enough where it can change it over to snow. And by this time frame right here is 1 a.m. Friday morning, and you can see it may be raining as far east as Raleigh, up towards the Virginia border, and back west toward I-77, and of course snowing in Nashville in the mountains. As we get toward 4 a.m. Thursday morning, now that rain cooling process, that drying process, the rain drying and cooling the atmosphere, will begin to take its effect, and we'll start to see snow mixing in the Triad area. So we're going to get, probably a couple hours of what I would describe as light rain. The rain that moves in Thursday evening into midnight Friday morning, into early Friday morning, it's not going to be heavy. It's going to be fairly light. So eventually, before dawn, we're going to see that rain changing to snow in the Triad, even back toward the Charlotte metro area. And then finally, by 7 a.m., it's all snow, basically along and north of I-85. And look how, I'm going to highlight the I-85 corridor right here. And, it works so well. That's why we use it all the time, because it's a climatological zone for anywhere along and north of this highway tends to be colder and tends to be a good line for us to delineate where there will be a precip type changeover from rain to snow. It doesn't always work, and sometimes it's a little bit further south of 85, but generally that's why we say along and north, because it's a good boundary to demonstrate what areas have the best likelihood to see snow. So this is 7 a.m. Friday, and you can see snow's trying to mix in over portions to the east and even in the eastern triangle, but it's just too warm. And then this is 11 a.m. or I'm sorry, this is 10 a.m. Friday, 10 a.m. Friday. And look how you'll see that the snow is still mostly confined along and north of 85. Maybe trying to, maybe a few little touches of snow further south, but they're very spotty. So it looks like, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. through about midday Friday, there will be more than likely there'll be some snow falling north of the I-85 corridor. Okay, so if you're in Forsyth, northern Davidson, Guilford, Alamance, Orange, northern Durham, Granville, Vance, and even Warren County, and maybe even over to northern Halifax County, you're going to get in on some of that snow. And then finally, by 1 p.m. Friday, this is 1 p.m. Friday, the low is starting to finally exit, and you'll notice that some of this snow type precipitation looks like it's spreading further to the east. And you'll notice, it's even snowing down toward Chatham and approaching the triangle. And that's not unusual as the low exits. Sometimes it turns a little bit colder, and we're able to see that snow move a little bit further to the east. This is 4 p.m. Friday, and this is 7 p.m. Friday. So you can see this particular model I'm using basically shows it's snowing. And let me back up here. I'm backing up. Here's 7 a.m. Friday, 10 a.m. Friday, 1 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. Friday, 7 p.m. Friday. And then in the evening Friday, it pretty much winds down and exits and ends. Okay, so we're talking a period of, maybe up to 12 hours where it's snowing off and on along and north of 85. And that's why we think those areas will have the best chance to see any kind of, accumulations. Now, keep in mind, this is a daytime event. And that's another caveat, in that whenever snow falls in the daytime, it's always tough for it to accumulate. When snow falls in the daytime, accumulations are rate dependent. So it really has to come down hard for it to accumulate to overcome the daytime and the little bit of heating that's happening during the daytime. So that's why we think what does accumulate will be heavy. It'll be wet. It'll tend to want to melt on the roads fairly quickly unless it's coming down really hard, and that heavy wet snow will accumulate on the trees and there could be some power outages. So that's the biggest concern. Now, as the system is winding down, it looks like, according to this model, it looks like the snow makes it about as far east as the US 1 corridor. And this is a really rough approximation of the US 1 corridor. Actually, it's a little bit further to the west, but you get the idea. So, places between 85 and the US 1 corridor may actually see some snow, but it probably won't be snowing long enough or hard enough for there to be much in the way of accumulation in this area. I mean, that could change. So don't take that to the bank right now. Things could change with this event. But right now, it looks like the worst of the impacts will be up here along the northern, the triad, basically, in the northwest Piedmont. All right, so that's kind of how things are going to play out. And again, let me just run you through this one more time. And this is 7 p.m. Thursday, 10 p.m. Thursday, 1 a.m. Friday, 4 a.m. Friday, 7 a.m. Friday, 10 a.m. Friday, 1 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. Friday, 7 p.m. Friday, 10 p.m. Friday, and 1 a.m. Saturday. All right. So that's how we think this is going to play out in terms of what's this going to amount in terms of accumulations. Right now, this is, remember a few years ago, we introduced this range of possible snow amounts, that takes into account all the different models. And you're probably wondering, again, this causes a lot of confusion. This one here in the lower left, well, why is the low end 0? Well, that means what that's telling us is that there are still quite a few models that are showing that nothing will accumulate, okay? And on the high end, the 1 out of 10 scenario would suggest that we could see basically 1 to 3 or more inches in that corridor right there. Okay, so that would be on the lower right. That's the worst case scenario, with, of course, places from Roxborough to Burlington to Greensboro to Winston-Salem down to Lexington having the highest snow amounts in that corridor. But when you take basically the consensus of all the models, would suggest that basically we see about an inch of snowfall in the northwest Piedmont and Triad area, the place that I just circled on this map, okay, and basically little or no accumulation elsewhere, okay? So again, that's the way this is shaping up right now based on the data that we have right now. Now, of course, again, stay tuned. This could change. It's always marginal. Snowstorms or snow events, I should say, not snowstorm. It's any snow event in Central North Carolina is always marginal. All right. So again, if you're in the Triad, Northwest Piedmont, points north and west, that's where you're probably going to see, something that's going to keep. Worst case scenario, you get a couple more inches all the way down towards the along and south of 85, maybe as far east as the US 1 corridor. Okay, if you're in the coastal plain or Sandhills, Fayetteville, Laurinburg, Clinton, Goldsboro, I don't think you have anything to worry about. This is all going to be rain for you in those areas. All right. So again, this graphic here just simply is another way to demonstrate where we think there could be snow versus rain. All right. And then finally, just wrapping this up, confidence is moderate that this event will occur, but still low on impacts. Not unusual for us to have low confidence even 2 days out, given all the uncertainties in track and how much cold air there'll be. And of course, Thursday night through Friday night is when this is going to occur. A couple inches of heavy, wet, slushy snow are possible Thursday night through Friday, most likely along and north of the 85 corridor, although you could see some snowflakes as far east as I-95, but unlikely to accumulate along 95. All right. Right now, this appears to be mostly a rain or snow event. That is, we don't expect any freezing rain or ice. However, given the heavy, wet nature of the snow, even though there's no ice, we could still see a few trees that snap and subsequent power outages. All right. So, obviously, we're going to keep an eye on the track and determine, hopefully refine where the rain snow line is. And then finally, the one good news is keep in mind that much of the snow will fall during the daytime, which makes it more difficult to accumulate, with accumulations more dependent on the intensity, that is how hard and fast the snow is falling. All right, and it goes without saying you'll want to stay tuned for updates. So that is our briefing for 9 a.m. here, Wednesday, morning on the 6th of January.